You're going to remember this every day for the rest of your life. If you want to get to a goal, if you want to get to your dream, you got to focus on all the little steps. You have to put in your time. You have to be patient and you have to enjoy the process. Whatever you're doing now, whatever you want to be great at, whatever you want to be special at, I'm sure you maybe already be good at it, but to be extraordinary, you have to do extra. I firmly believe that we are all here for a very specific reason, to do something truly extraordinary. But what are you going to do to get there?
Welcome to the Megna Method podcast, and I am so excited to sit down with writer, director, producer, Mr. Randy West.
I don't know about the writing part.
It sounds good, though.
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much, man.
That's all that matters. Please, thank you so much. Let me just tell everyone as we start this podcast, Randy has done something truly special, and it's a huge honor that he's even doing it, and that's what this podcast is about. A few years ago, we had an idea, or he had an idea, and I was flattered but scared, and that idea was to do a documentary. And we're going to tell you all about it, and he's going to do most of the talking after I do this intro, but I've never seen anyone work as hard as he's worked on this. And I wish I could say, like, hey, man, he's just doing it for this project, but he does everything like that. So he's not only been a blessing as a positive influence, but he's also a great influence as a friend. And he's a special guy, man. I'm really lucky to have him in my life. And thank you for making time to be on the show and share the story.
No, thank you. And, I have a great example of hard work, and some friends that I have. So
I'd like to meet him.
No, maybe we should just tell them a little bit of our backstory, I guess, first before we go into.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so I think I'll tell them, I don't even think I shared this with you before, but I left high school and I went to NC State University. I won't get in trouble for saying that one.
From Coach Reed?
No. Coach Reed would laugh. And anyhow, I went to NC State and I got some academic money, and that was, I thought that I would be okay with, like, maybe trying to walk on, or I was like, I don't really know if it was a dream to play college football. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to be a star, but I just wanted to play. Mm-hmm. But I got a lot of academic money for college, and I was like, well, I don't have a lot of money, so I better take this. And
right.
They didn't have tryouts until the winter, and I tried out, and I did extremely well. Like we were talking about earlier, I thought I did extremely well.
Yeah, we have that. That's a big topic for today.
Yeah, and but I made it all the way to the end, but then I got cut, and that was devastating because throughout those tryouts, I realized that I really did want to play. So, long story short, I couldn't play there because I got cut, and they didn't want me. I was too small, and to play offensive line, I was too slow to play anywhere else. So, I ended up transferring to Richmond. Was a whole nother story in itself. But when my first year at Richmond, you had just left, and or maybe about 2 years before I came in, you had just left. And I remember the first offensive line meetings I was in, and I was just glued in on Coach Leonard. Everything he was teaching, I was just locked in on him. And I had no idea who you were. I had just got into Richmond. But he said, it was probably the best compliment. I didn't know. The other guys were looking at me like I was crazy, but they were like, he could Coach Leonard, who you remind me of? This guy, Mark Megna. And I was like, who is that?
What a sick and demented bucket to get thrown into. I'm sorry.
No, it was, it turns out to be probably one of the greatest compliments ever. But I
appreciate it.
So yeah, that's our history, through Richmond and whatnot. But, I was teaching high school for about 10 years, and teaching at a not so fortunate area, where a lot of the student population was lower socioeconomic income, single parent homes, a lot of, and I was coaching football too. So a lot of those kids, didn't have fathers. And
let me just say, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm not so sure our listeners understand what it's like to be a teacher and be a coach. You're not exactly rolling in it. So just most people won't do a job, let alone volunteer to do something where if you get paid, if it's extremely low salary, whatever it is, and what you deal with through not only players and players' parents, I mean, you're a hero. I'm serious, because my high school coach to me was someone truly special. But to volunteer the way you did and just commit so much of your life to doing something when it's kind of a thankless job.
Yeah, I think, in today's world, materialistically, it is a thankless job, but intrinsically, right? I mean, it's probably one of the greatest rewards you could receive. I mean, you coach. I mean, it's not necessarily coaching like a sport or whatnot, but you coach an individual almost every single. Well, you yourself coach a team of trainers, and
well, a lot of those times, those trainers are actually teaching me, and my job is to serve them the best I can. And it's usually, it starts off with me thinking I'm going to teach them something great, and it usually ends with me learning something great from them. But I've seen the way you work with the high school kids. It's really special,
well,
and they're lucky to have you.
I
You work your butt off, so you should. They're lucky.
I learned from some great coaches myself, both of us. But in my time teaching, like I said, the population that I worked with there were some amazing kids, and like always, there were some not so amazing kids, but a lot of them, I don't want to say just weren't fortunate, but it was just the circumstances that they were in. They had to deal with some different things. I wouldn't say they were less fortunate, more fortunate. Either way, it's just different. It was just different circumstances. Yeah. And noticing that, a lot of coaches or a lot of men, which there's starting to be a lack of, like, alpha males or just strong men that are in positions to teach young men. I mean, even young kids in general. Not even so much just, how to play a sport, but just how to be a good person, how to do the right thing, teaching them correct morals and, good habits and how to treat people. But,
and most people don't even want to do that, because then you have to be responsible.
Right.
So
it's so true.
It's a tall task.
They, like I said, those kids, they single parent homes. If there was a mother or a father that was a single parent, they were working multiple jobs. They were hardly ever there. So, it's the cliche story, like the coach is like picking the kids up, buying them dinner, like basically trying to help take care of the kid. It's not that the parent neglects them. It's just that they're doing what they can to help provide for their children.
Right.
So, spending those years coaching and teaching, and then, obviously I was ready to get out of the teaching. I'm still involved in coaching high school football, but I was ready to get out of the teaching environment. And I was always involved in video production. And so I was going full time in video production with our small production company. And one of the things I wanted to really focus on was great storytelling, and obviously with the environment that I was exposed to, and knowing you and being good friends with you, I was like, these kids need to see, especially the young men, but kids in general, need to see that somebody who was in their shoes and went through the same things that they did, was in the same circumstances that they were in, found a way to make it happen. And this is where he is now. And I thought, who else would be more perfect than you? So that's when I approached you, and it was like, and look, I know for all of you that know Mark, that he's a super humble guy. So it wasn't like, I was like, hey, Mark, man, let me make this documentary about you. And he was like, oh, that'd be great, man. I'd love to see something about myself. This is like, no, it wasn't like that at all. It was like, I had to approach him and tell him exactly why and what was the purpose behind it and how I was going to approach the whole project. And even then it was like he was very hesitant because knowing Mark, he doesn't think that his story is that profound or that impactful, but those of us who have witnessed it and been around it and seen it, and we know that how much of a positive impact it can have on those who view it. So this was me begging him to let me make a film about his life, so that number one, we could provide a positive story for not just kids but people in general, to see that no matter what your circumstances are, you can reach your goals, but guess what? There's going to be an insane amount of hard work, determination. Yeah, there's a price for that. And I think a lot of people are starting to lose focus of that. It's, I think more people are saying it now, with the whole social media and the microwave, society, that you want things, yesterday, that we need to get back to really focusing on putting in that hard work and putting in that time and effort and preaching that, so that people know it's okay when you're sweating and you're bleeding. It's okay. Mm-hmm. Like that's supposed to happen. So.
Oh yeah. I just want to say, first of all, Randy didn't appreciate it, but he didn't exactly beg me. I mean, it was like, was there some convincing? I guess you could say that. It's just that, understand that when you put yourself out there, you expose yourself to all types of feedback. Yeah, there's positive, but there's also a lot of negative, and there's a lot of haters, and it is what it is. And some people say, hey, if you haven't arrived until you have a significant amount of naysayers or haters, but that doesn't make it easy. And sometimes some people don't want to deal with that, and I respect that. But I do think that we all have an obligation to want to be better, to do better, and be the best we can. And I want everyone to hear this and hear this clearly. I am not perfect. I am not on a pedestal, and I am not talking down to anyone. All we're doing is sharing my story. And I remember being in high school, my freshman year at Durfee High School. I was sitting down with my football teammates in a gymnasium. My high school coach, Bob Bogan, brought in a speaker, a guy who was playing college football, and he gave his speech, which was a very motivational speech, and it inspired us. And at the end, he said, there's going to be a lot of things that you go through in life that are hard. In high school, you're going to have to decide if you want to do certain things that may take you in another direction and could possibly take you away from your dreams. He said, if you want something bad enough, you got to make the necessary sacrifices, commit, and realize that your life is going to be a little bit different. And then at the end, he said, I'd love to tell you that 5 guys in this group will end up playing college football, but the truth is there's probably 1 or 2. And if one guy gets to play professionally, that's a long shot, and it probably won't happen. But there might be 1. And I remember instantly thinking, man, I hope he's talking about me. That can be me. Just the possibility that could happen. But I know that there's a lot of kids out there who do the right thing, who don't partake in things that are compromising to their health, that are doing the very best they can, not only on the football field or on the basketball court or ice hockey or baseball, but they're also great students, and they're trying to be good people. And I think that there's so many stories out there about kids who, fall and rise and fall and fall and fall and make. There's a bunch of kids out there who are doing great from day one and always live their life like that, but because there's no drama or there's no crazy fall from grace, that people completely ignore them. Like, we need to give a shout out to the kid who's getting verbally abused because he's trying to do the right thing in every day. because he's not partaking in drugs or alcohol, like, that's okay. It's okay to be you. Everyone says just be a kid, have fun. Well, what if being fun is not doing any of those things? Why can't he just be himself? And why does a kid have to get picked on because he's trying to be the best human being he can? Live the best life, be as healthy as possible. That's not a negative thing. That should be praised. And I think that's a major part of this story.
I agree. Yeah, hopefully we tell that story too. We tell it in a way that's effective and people really get that. So
yeah, and it's not that. Listen, when I was in high school, I certainly did things that could have taken me down a horrible path, but it's just that I feel like I was lucky because I was able to catch it just in time before it got out of hand and make sure that, I don't judge people who go out and party. Like, I mean, I don't, if you want to go drink, if you want to do, like, I don't care what you do. Like, I don't judge anyone else, but I didn't want that kind of life for me. I looked all around and I saw everything that was happening in the city I grew up in and with my best friends and the group of guys I hung out with who were all tremendous athletes, who were all gifted and talented. And I realized I don't want that kind of life. I have to make a change. It has to start with someone. My father did drugs. My father drank in excess. And I said, I don't want to do those things. So am I a little bit hard on myself now? Sure. But that's the only way I knew how to break the cycle. I didn't know anything else. So that's a large part of the reasoning for this. And I trust my dear friend Randy to do the best job he possibly can. And man, like I said before, when I talk about, like, I've never seen anyone work so hard, let's talk more specifically about the work, because how many interviews have you collected?
Man, I think we just got about 50 interviews for this project specifically.
And tell them where they came from.
Oh man, all over the country. All
over the
country.
Well, the different acts are comprised of what?
Oh, so we broke it down. Obviously there's, just to keep it simple and, especially for our audience, if we kind of split it up into 3 acts, the first act is the Fall River scene and, Mark's journey from childhood all the way to the end of his high school career or end of high school. And then act 2 is going to include, it's heavily college football, his tenure in the league with the NFL and then the CFL, and his time in Montreal, which was really special. And then act 3 is obviously everything that took place after that, which is mainly in Miami, and your journey through the fitness industry and how you climbed your way through that. So there's definitely, it's like, it comes down to a matter of me doing a good job or, a well enough job of telling the story, because the story itself is already there. It's like, it's basically like, I know you're going to be like, nah, but you handed me this story on a silver platter. It's just a matter of me, delivering it to the audience in an effective way. Because at each stage, there's great exposition, there's climax, there's peaks and valleys, there's conflict, and that's how life should be. Life's not going to be easy sailing the entire time. Like if there's no conflict in your life, or there's nothing that you have to overcome, there's no adversity, I want to know who you are and what kind of life you're living. I want to be with you.
Well, we talk about that all the time. Like, I'm not a parent, but I've certainly been a son. And I think my mother did a great job of letting us. I went to a conference this weekend, and there was a moment in the conference, an aha moment, where, they're in playgrounds now, they want to remove like the monkey bars because kids fall and kids get hurt. And of course, we don't want anyone to get hurt, but falling off the monkey bars is a part of the process. You kind of got to fall, because if you fall, you realize you get hurt. Then you pay more attention. You try to do a better job. That's a part of it, right?
Right. Even learn how to fall, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's like you said. It's not just learning not to fall. It's learning how to fall the next time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, with, as I said, I'm not a parent, but I've been a son, and my mother understood that I have to let my son go through this adversity, because if he doesn't deal with adversity at, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16, well, then when he turns 20, it's going to hit him, and he's not going to know how to deal with it, and then he's going to have a breakdown. And then he'll either implode or explode, and it's going to be very bad. And that's when depression sets in. That's when substance abuse sets in. And, you have to let kids deal with those things. And I can only imagine. I hope to be a parent someday. And I can only imagine watching from a distance as your child suffers. But the kids that I grew up with that were protected, and were always, they would get in trouble, and the parents would get them out of trouble, and they wouldn't really punish them. They kind of punish them, and the parents thought that they were doing a great job of, disciplining the kid, and it wasn't real discipline, meaning that the kid didn't feel the heartache or the pain from the mistake. Well, those kids are lifelong strugglers. I mean, the majority of the kids I grew up with that the parents got them out of trouble all the time, they're either alcoholics or drug users. They're suffering miserably through life because they don't know how to deal with any adversity. And I'm not saying, we all have problems. Everyone has. I don't care if you're rich or poor. We all have our own set of cards we're dealt. We all have adversity. But you kind of got to learn the process of dealing with that. And I don't know what the process is for you, because the process for me is different from everyone else. But we got to figure that out on our own. And it's not fun. It's very hard. I'm certainly not an expert. I screw it up all the time, but I've certainly felt a great deal of pain dealing with adversity. And it's serves me much better now. If I make a mistake, it's okay to make a mistake, but don't be a mistake repeater. So let them feel it. They have to feel it. It's like you either pay the piper now or pay the piper later, but you will pay. Mm-hmm. You can't avoid it. You can't hack the system, because at some point you won't be there to pick up the pieces. They'll be alone, and they will just fall apart. I don't know.
Amen to that.
So
yeah, and there's a lot of and based off of that, there's a lot for every individual who watches the documentary, hopefully, that they can take from that in regards to that topic, and to add on to that, that adversity and that those conflicts, those obstacles, what we're hoping to convey in the documentary is, it's not like Mark said, he's not perfect, and we talked about this earlier. Everybody thinks about quitting. There's nobody that's never thought about quitting.
Yeah, anyone who tells you that they've never thought about quitting, they're lying.
Yeah.
And they're trying to make themselves be something they're not. I've thought about quitting several times in my life, and a lot of times recently, but I realized that I don't want to quit. I realize I'm having a bad day, not a bad career or a bad life. I keep it in perspective, and I pull through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what we want to tell people. We want to show them those obstacles and that those adverse moments. We want to show them that it was tough, but it was just you just got to get up and finish another day. Get up and finish another day, and then eventually you get past that.
It becomes a habit.
Yeah,
it becomes a habit.
And you did that in so many instances, and more than we could show. Really, and we talked about this. I don't think people understand how hard it is to tell somebody's life, truly tell their life in 90 minutes, and even 90 minutes is kind of long.
Yeah.
So to be able just so everybody knows, there's a lot that's going to be left out of this documentary. Not that it alters the story anyhow. It's just that there's a lot of great moments that we just couldn't include. And that's why we created the website for the extra content and the extra bonus material, so that we could put those other clips and stories out there so people could enjoy them and hopefully relate to them, find some sort of inspiration from it.
Right. I mean, there's so much footage that it deserves to be seen, and there's like different people. There's obviously the interviews from Fall River, the people from Fall River, and the people I grew up with will want to see that. The Richmond family will want to see all the stories of Coach Reed and the staff and the players that were all interviewed. And then, the Anatomy family and community will want to see the story revolving around that with my business partners, Chris and Randy, and they have so much great information and feedback, like just great interviews. Like, honestly, you probably just want to watch them just because they give great interviews, and they can make stories about both of them as well. So,
honestly, everybody we talked to for this project was just so overwhelmingly like, just whatever you need.
Yeah.
They were like, just tell me. And like, I mean, they were just ready to be involved. And it spoke about their character, but it also spoke about your character, because they were so willing to be involved and to talk about you and to talk about their experiences. And not everybody's like that, and not everybody's like that about somebody else. So
that's true.
And sad to say, there was like, man, when we started coming up with a list of people, I think I know I told you, I was like, yeah, we got to keep this low, man, because number one, for people who don't know, Mark and I didn't have a budget for this film. Like, this is a passion project.
Yeah. And by the way, we were talking about a documentary earlier of someone we know who did a documentary.
Right.
And they had a $500,000 budget, and we had nothing.
Nothing.
We have nothing. I mean, this car was Randy was basically packing up his car and driving up and down the East Coast, and a little bit to Middle America. So when he would say, "I'm driving,"
out of the country.
Oh yeah, out of the country to Montreal.
To Montreal.
I mean, that's why I say I've never seen work like this. And on top of that, yes, he's married. For how many years have you been married, by the way?
11 years.
11 years. So we can do another podcast about the tricks of that. But he's got an amazing wife. He's got 2 amazing children. So he's a full-time dad, runs his own business, and he's married, and he's cutting the lawn. And if you not to give you an inaccurate picture, but he has a very, very large yard, and he cuts his own grass. Yeah. So he is a human dynamo, if you will. But I want to say there's certainly going to be people in this documentary, that were not interviewed. And let's just say that he couldn't interview everyone, because the thing is, like, if you interview one client, right? And he did, but he can't interview them all. I have like 40 people I train, right?
Yeah.
Some of them have been training for 13 years. Some of them have been training for 1 year. And then the people I work with, like, the team's incredible, but to do it justice, you'd have to interview every single person in the building.
Right.
You really would. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure Vanessa could give you some great stories. Not all good, like David Geller, not all good, but like even David Miller, Maxine, like Jacqueline, like Eric, like those people would give unbelievable interviews, but you just can't do them all,
right?
And they're a huge part of my life too. But
absolutely,
that doesn't mean they're not important. It's just that there was no budget and it had to be limited.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, and you get lost, unless, and we talked about this, unless you were making like a lengthy docu-series where
right.
It was like a 6 to 8 episode television show that you could tune into. But at the 50 interviews we have, it's really tough to like include every single person. Oh, yeah. And then I'm not saying you have to. I definitely wanted to, because everybody that we interviewed gave amazing stories.
And some people, by the way, so that everyone understands this, some people you have like 2-hour interviews.
Oh my gosh.
And you use one sentence.
Yeah.
And that's not because the information wasn't amazing or the storytelling wasn't great. It was just because there's only so much space, as you said before.
Right. Exactly. And so, just so everybody knows, we, if you're one of those folks who felt like you should have been interviewed, trust me, we probably had you on a list, and it was just like, it was heartbreaking for us to kind of narrow it down to certain folks. But, we started with a list that was way less than 50 as well, but obviously that grew.
Well, what happens is, we talked about this yesterday. If we're sitting, like Joe Douglas, for example, Joe Douglas was sitting down. Well, Coach Reed was sitting down talking about the success of some teammates. And of course, you mentioned Joe Douglas, who's now the general manager of the New York Jets, who's not only a huge success, but he's an amazing friend to me. He stays in my house when he comes to Miami. But we weren't going to do Joe. Like, we wanted to, but we didn't know if we wanted to bother Joe. Joe was like, I'm down to do it, but Randy had to drive to Philadelphia to get it.
Right, and I was all about it. I mean, because he was excited. Once he knew we wanted to, he was like, "Oh my gosh, we got to make this happen." So, I mean, you can imagine how busy a vice president of player personnel for an NFL team is, and he was like, we just bounced back and forth, like, "Hey, how can we make this happen?" And he was like, I think it was like a Monday night at like 8 p.m.
Who, by the way, another guy who works probably 80 hours a week, is married, and I think he has 4 children.
He's
And made time on a Monday night.
Right. And luckily I had 2 young guys that are amazing young videographers who I on that trip I wanted somebody with me, because not only did we drive up on Monday afternoon, we drove right back to Richmond after the interview. I mean, it's about a 4.5 hour drive, but we finished, like you said, like, you think you're going in like a 30-minute interview. No. It was like 2 hours, because the storytelling is amazing. And you just can't sit down with an individual like Joe Douglas and just ask him like 5 questions and be like, okay, I'm out. Like, no, I got to get everything.
It's just an opportunity you'll probably never have again.
Right.
And then Coach Reed mentions Joe Douglas. You see Joe Douglas. Then Joe Douglas mentions Elio and Todd McShay. So then you're like, oh, I got to go to Boston. I got to go to Connecticut.
Yeah.
And it got,
But that, and I think in the back of our heads, we knew that was going to happen. It was just, it's our first run, and we didn't test the waters, so we didn't know if people were really going to be willing to be involved. Like, we didn't know, and it was like, and that's what was so amazing. It was like, it wasn't like we had to beg anybody. We just put it out there, and they were like, yeah. When can you be here? Like, when can we do it? Some people were even like, do you need me to come to Richmond?
Right.
And I was like, no way. Come on. Like Coach Reed. I mean, like, you coach college football. Like,
Coach Reed would have drove down for the interview. So he's crazy.
I mean, it was just a really, and the whole experience was amazing. It was not just, obviously I knew a lot of the Richmond guys, which was really fun for me to catch up with a lot of those guys and to just relive a lot of those stories. But going to Fall River and meeting those folks and, all of your family and friends and just experiencing the town, like almost kind of like getting an opportunity to walk in your shoes and it just kind of be one with Fall River, understand the pride that comes out of there, understand also the other side that makes you want to get out. And then, just understanding everything about Fall River it's just an amazing experience. And oh my gosh, and the food, I won't go into that, but the food is amazing, and the breads, and I'm a fat kid and I love bread. So, I mean, where else?
Did you go to Mazzilli's? Did you go to Mazzilli's?
I didn't.
Oh my, that's a sin.
Yeah. Oh. And then,
maybe we can have those shipped. We'll see if we can.
They won't be as fresh though.
Yeah, but there's got to be a way.
Yeah.
My brother can do it.
They, So and then oh my gosh, getting to go to Montreal, which was an amazing. I mean, we went in December and it was freezing cold, and it was still a gorgeous city. Like, it was so fun.
It's a great city.
And fortunately, I was lucky enough to take my wife and kids, and my kids loved it. My wife is a foodie, and she thought the food in Montreal was good. The big shout out to Max, man. Max, he looked out for us and took care of us as far as the food and just everything. And Anna, it was a great experience. And then always, going to Miami and talking to the folks in Miami and being down there. How can you not enjoy going to Miami?
Yeah.
So, and it's always an opportunity to get to see you and hang out with you and Melanie. So it just, the whole process was amazing. And by the way, this has been like 3.5 years. So don't, this wasn't like the last few months. Like this has been 3.5 years of traveling to and fro, to make this, possible. Even places Kentucky, Tennessee, we're out in Kentucky getting Anwar Stewart, Tennessee getting Chris Jones.
Chris Jones, one of my teammates that played with Montreal, he was an assistant coach in Kentucky. And then Chris Jones, who's my defensive coordinator, who's had a lot of success in the CFL as a head coach and won a Grey Cup, is now what position is he?
I think he's the defensive line coach.
He's a defensive line coach and coordinator.
I think
not yet, but he's a defensive line coach for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
And he was the guy who gave me a shot in Montreal, who no one else kind of wanted me, and he was like, "I want that kid."
Yeah.
And, he gave a great interview too, man.
He did. He's such his football IQ is off the chart. I mean, he's going to climb the ladder extremely fast in the NFL.
Smart guy, man.
Yeah.
Ooh, smart. But, then there was a lot of people that we reached out to that were extremely busy. And then when they kind of heard what it was, wanted to jump back in and be like, no, I'm available. And I was like, bro, it's kind of too late, man, because I can't. Every time I was like, Randy, I think you got to go to Connecticut to get Todd McShay. It would like crush my soul to say it to him because it's like, you need it. Randy knows we need it, but it's like, now I got to ask this guy to leave his family again for a weekend or during the week to drive to Connecticut. I'm like, I felt like just not saying anything. But the idea wasn't to, when Randy said it's been 3.5 years, the idea wasn't to just smash something together and get it out there. Like, I'll give you an example. Sharif Malik, when he was interviewed, what did he say when you broke out all your equipment?
He was like, wow, this is so professional.
He's like, this is real. And this is real. Like, Randy, if you saw what his house looked like in the rooms of video, like, he's a real videographer, movie maker, short filmmaker. Now, this is his first piece like this, but he's been doing this for how many years?
15 years?
Yeah.
I think? Yeah, professionally,
so,
yeah.
This is like a serious, real big thing, and it took that long to put all the pieces together because my life has been in Fall River, Richmond, New England with the Pats, Cincinnati, Montreal, Miami, all over the place, and he had to pull all those pieces together, and just laying down the foundation took time.
Yeah.
It took a lot of time.
Oh man, and we had an idea of where these interviews would take us, but it just turned into so much more once we started getting.
It was like an octopus.
Oh man, it was worth it though. It was so worth it. It was not only the experience, but just connecting people was I think is going to end up being a huge part of this story.
Right.
And it's been a joy, man. It's been a joy, and we still have a long ways to go. We're not done, but we can see the finish line.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's super exciting. And I hope that we do a great job telling the story. And I think you and I discussed this before. It was like, because it's a passion project. We obviously we can say, oh well, we just want to make a great film. Like, yeah. I mean, obviously we want to get some sort of reward out of it, but really in the end, if it's one person that sees that film and is like, it changes their life, which I think is going to be more than one person, obviously, but it's worth it. It's worth it. I mean, it's a great feeling.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's kids out there, like I said before, I think I keep saying there's kids out there, but the truth is, I think this could be a great book for so many different types of people. They go, okay, Mark was a football player. It's going to be great for football players. I mean, listen, I hope so, but that's not what it's about. It's not about football. It's not about just academics. It's not about struggle. It's about all of those things. Like, I just finished my book, and the book is called Dream Big, Never Quit, by the way. And it'll be out soon in the next few months. And when the editor was going through it, I said, just out of curiosity, who would you say this book is built for? it was very funny. The answer I got back was, parents, this is a book about parenting. And I never heard that before. And I was like, really? He's like, oh, yeah, your mom, the way your mom handled things and handled you and brought you and your brother up. And I was thinking, that shocked me. I thought, okay, it's about college football or training. And he said parenting. So I think there's something in there for everyone. I really do. And
yeah, no, it is.
You know, we talk about it all the time. You think you're better than you are. I'm hoping there is something in there for everyone. I really do.
There's absolutely something in there for everyone. It doesn't matter who you are or what you're going through. It's, you know, even and you know, we don't, like you said, we don't have to focus so much on the struggle, because you're not always you. There are peaks in your life. You are at good places and good moments, and not everybody that watches this wants to watch it to learn or to experience how to overcome something. You can watch this documentary and just feel good about seeing, you know, good people talking about other good people doing good things.
Right.
And you know, I hope that that's what people take away from it. You know, one of the things that people take away from it. So it's definitely something in there for everybody. I want people to think that it's a strictly motivational, inspirational piece that you got to watch when you're down and out, you know, like you're in a dark room by yourself, crying your eyes out. And you're like, oh, I got to put on this, you know.
Yeah. And that being said, it's not, look, as Randy said, I'm not, you know, I don't need to go up there and tell everyone, oh man, we were homeless and there was struggles. And like we're not trying to create a drama filled story. You know, it's not like everyone, I hear these stories and I'm thinking, there was no happy times in your life. And I think that, like, the way I was raised, my mother, it didn't matter what we had or didn't have. She made it feel like we had everything, and she busted her butt to make sure it seemed that way. But there's enough drama and falls and adversity in this story to not embellish or add. Like, it's there. So my story's not crazier or tougher than your upbringing. Like, everyone has it. Everyone has it. I don't care who you are, where you come from, rich or poor. Like, we all have it. So, it's just a story where, you know, we were talking about the kids I grew up with, and I was in rooms where kids were drinking. They were drinking beer. They were drinking hard liquor. They were, you know, doing lines. They were smoking pot. They were taking prescription pills. And I can't tell you exactly why I stayed away from it, but the reason why I ended up not going down that road is because I did not want to let my mother down. Like, I saw her killing herself, and I'm thinking the least I could do is not add to her problems. And, like, me resorting or taking part in that was not going to help our family situation. So I said, at least I can be responsible and do the best I can, because you'd have to be an absolute moron to participate in that, knowing what she's going through. And there was pressure. Like, there was pressure from kids to do it. And people think, oh, Mark, it must have been easy for you. It wasn't easy. Every time I walked into a house party or a room where they were doing something, I was like, maybe this is the night I'll do it. Like, maybe I'll take part in it. Like, I want to be a part of that group. I want them to look at me like I'm an insider, not an outsider. But there was just too much, you know, crap that my mom was going through. And after seeing what my father went through, like, I didn't want to go down that road, you know. And Randy does an amazing job telling the story, you know.
So far.
Yeah. Yeah. But I wanted to ask you about the interviews. Like, you said you had a good time with the interviews, but you must have, like, just think about in general, you probably heard a lot of stories that you weren't aware of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like stories referring to you, or just stories?
Just stories in general.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
And things that you probably would never hear until you get a mic on someone and they start sharing.
Oh, yeah. You know. And it was amazing to hear how open a lot of people were, and but also extremely respectful. You could tell there were certain things that bothered certain people in specific interviews, not about you, but just about certain situations and circumstances. But it wasn't like they were ready to throw anybody else under the bus. Like they weren't ready to they weren't like just itching to get after somebody negatively. Like nobody did that. Nobody. And again, I think it goes back to your character and the people you surround yourself with. Like, even if those people have a little bit of that in them, they know what kind of person you are, and they know your character, and they are respectful enough to behave accordingly in their interview. But I don't think it was in their character for everybody. Everybody that you surround yourself with and that's in your life, I think a little bit of you rubbed off on them, and they obviously acted accordingly to during their interviews. But yeah, going back to your question about just stories that I didn't even know, like there's a lot all over the place, but specifically a few of the ones obviously from Richmond that I wasn't aware of. Maybe kind of a glimpse, or somebody might have mentioned something, but I didn't know the full story behind certain transactions. Like I didn't know Coach Cullen played for, I knew he played for Coach Reed, but I didn't know how the whole story went down.
Oh yeah. That was a great story. I didn't know the full capacity of that story either.
Yeah, that was amazing. Like, so Coach Reed tells a story, it's kind of long. I don't know if I could do it justice here or even post it on the website, but Coach Reed was one of the only ones, kind of recruiting Joe Cullen when he was a high school football player. But he would send letters to Joe Cullen, handwritten letters. He would mail them, and and he called Joe at one point on the phone, and Joe's mother was like.
She answered. She didn't want Joe to talk to him.
Right. She was mad. She was upset.
Yeah.
She was like, "You keep telling my son that you're going to offer him a scholarship, and you're writing him all these letters. Like, we haven't seen anything."
Right.
And Coach Reed was just like, he was like, because he said Coach Cullen's mother was tough.
Yeah. Oh, she was. I met her. She's very tough.
Yeah. So he was taken back. He was like, "Well, I don't know what you mean. I've been sending handwritten letters to your son, for some time now." And so, and Coach Reed is a super intelligent guy.
Yeah.
Immediately he starts thinking, and he's like, so tell me this. What's the address? What's your address?
Yeah.
And she gives him the address. He looks at the address he's been mailing to. It was the wrong address. Mm-hmm. It was like a house like right down the street.
Right.
So he goes. He says that his mother was like, "I'll call you back."
Right.
So the first thing she did was she went down the street,
right,
and she asked the guy who lived there, "Have you been getting letters from Jim Reed at Boston College?" And the guy saved all of them.
Yeah.
He had them in a box.
Yeah.
So normally you would think like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful. Thank you for this." Like, she chewed the guy out. Yeah. How could you hold on to these letters for so long? Why haven't you given these? Right. You didn't say a word. So right. I'm sure she did it in a much not so PC way, but
in a very Quincy way.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
she's from Quincy, Massachusetts.
Right. So after that, everything was, extremely kosher. But it's you have to. Jim Reed is a much better storyteller than I am. You have to hear him tell it. But stories like that, and then not everybody knows. And I don't think telling this really spoils anything in the film, but not everybody knows that Coach Reed recruited a lot of kids, not a lot, but a handful of kids from Massachusetts and the Northeast when he was the defensive coordinator at University of Richmond. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those kids were the incoming class of 1994. Well, right before that season.
And committed because of Coach Reed.
Right before that season, Coach Reed was offered the defensive coordinator position at Boston College. So, and it wasn't like he was just going home. It was familiar or anything. He was going to be making like 3 times what he made at Richmond.
Yeah.
He was living on a couch in Richmond. They just took his rental car away. He didn't have any transportation. Boston College was going to pay him 3 times more, give him a car. His family was in Boston.
And the head coach of Richmond at the time said, "I can't believe you'd be interested in something like
Yeah.
this." He was like, "I mean, I'd like to, take care of my family and eat."
Yeah. So he actually left and was the defensive coordinator at Boston College for the 1994 season.
That's when Mike Mamula was there, I think.
Yeah, you might be right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but he says, Coach Reed, obviously he tells the story. He had a hunch that he might be back.
Yeah.
So it wasn't long. It was immediately after the fall of '94. Coach Reed was back at Richmond as the head coach, which was probably even better than him sticking around as the DC.
Yeah, it was like a dark time when Coach Reed left, and I was thinking, I came to Richmond because of Coach Reed, and now he's gone, and
He said that was the only time he ever passed you in the hallway and you didn't say hello to him.
couldn't believe it. I was so upset, and I was thinking, this guy, the only one of the few people in the world I believe in, he just bounced, and I'm here by myself, and he left Coach Cullen there.
Yeah,
who was not happy, and I'm pretty sure Coach Cullen took it out on everyone that entire season, which wasn't good either. So
yeah, it's not like he needed a reason to take it out.
He didn't need extra motivation to be nasty.
Yeah,
but he came back, and it was really special. But
yeah, there was a lot of stories like that we just didn't. If everybody could watch every single interview, they'd be like, "Wow, I didn't know the connections between people."
Right,
they had no idea. A lot of people don't even know Todd McShay went to the University of Richmond. Yeah, so many people don't know that.
That's pretty disturbing as well. And they don't know Todd's story, because Todd's story is a great story.
Another great story about Coach Reed.
Yeah. I had him on another podcast, but when Todd tells the story, that's a great story.
Oh, when he after college, his climb,
yeah, that was like, everyone thinks Todd McShay makes so much money. I'm like, dude, there was no instant gratification there.
No,
Same thing with Joe Douglas. That was 20 years.
Yeah.
That was 20 years.
I mean, you posted that clip from 1999 when he was like...
He was an intern. That, by the way, the first year Joe Douglas applied for that internship, they didn't give it to him. He had to go back the next year.
Yeah.
Just to get the internship. So, I think that it's going to be positive for a lot of people. Were there any interviews that you were like, well, who gave the best interview? Can you say that? I know it's hard. Well, who do you see in your mind, who was the best coach?
The best coach. It's funny because I think you have to be more like Coach Reed was the best storyteller, right?
Yeah. But
Coach Leonard was the most enthusiastic. Yeah. I mean, the energy it was like flowing off of him. Mm-hmm. And obviously, for personal reasons, he was my position coach. So it was fun to sit down with him. And then with Coach Cullen, he was so intellectual, and it was so weird to like see him in that calm state, and
I mean, he's got to spend at least an hour a day calm.
Right. And then Chris Jones, oh my gosh. Like the first 15 minutes of our interview, we were just, because I coach high school football, we were just talking about strategies. We hadn't even started talking about like you or anything. Like we were just talking about football strategies.
That guy could talk football for a month.
Oh my gosh.
And not break stride. He's a wild man.
Yeah.
He loves football.
And I mean, and Coach Hansen, it's hard to say, each one of them was the best in a certain category,
Yeah.
Ultimately, and I think all the coaches would agree, Coach Reed he's just a great storyteller, and he has such a wealth of knowledge. I mean, he's been around for so long, and he's done such a great job with so many people.
He's probably been coaching, I want to say, 40 years. He's been coaching for at least 40 years.
In the interview, I think he said he's been coaching for 47 years. That might be incorrect, but it's 40 something.
Wow.
And I think
that's Belichick's 48, I think, 48 or 49.
Really?
In the NFL, by the way. In the NFL. But Coach Reed's got so much knowledge. It's crazy.
Man. I mean, who else asked me? What other topic? Or the interviews were amazing.
Well, I mean, if you could ask, like, who was the best player? Who was the best player you interviewed?
Oh, like who was the best player, or who was the best interview?
No. What player gave the best interview?
Oh man,
well, you forget, like, you have Todd, Elio, David Giles.
David Giles was the best. He was, hands down.
David Giles might be the best storyteller I've ever heard in my life. And then this is like no bias. Like
Yeah.
this kid can tell a story.
Oh my
If he was on
goodness.
stage, I would pay hundreds of dollars to get that ticket
Yeah,
all day.
hands down. He's a character, man. And the thing that's even more lovable about it is that it's so genuine.
Oh yeah.
Like he's not a character to be an actor. He's a character because
No.
it's his true
Who he is,
character. Yeah.
Genuine, and Randy, what they remember.
Oh gosh.
They
Yeah.
remember things that I didn't remember.
Yeah.
For sure. And that was one concern. But there was always like, they were telling stories. David Giles told a story about the Timberland boots that I was wearing.
Yeah. He said it was the first time he had ever seen a white guy with Timberlands on. He thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah. He goes, that's cool. So,
Yeah. But they all of them, yeah.
was there a Miami interview that you appreciated?
Oh man,
I know you appreciate them all.
Oh yeah,
obviously.
yeah,
of course,
for sure.
Of course.
You know, it's always. I think I learned a lot of leadership qualities from guys like Sharif Malnick and Chris Pacello and Randy Frankel. Like sitting down with them and just hearing their perspective on how things work and don't work, and how you applied that to the things that you were involved in with them. They're just so, I mean, and Eddie Owens, oh my goodness, man, and Dan Turner, they just, again, it's
Barry.
Barry. Oh my,
Yeah.
I mean,
Barry's
like,
good. Barry's good.
And to hear, you know, especially guys like that, like to hear them. I don't think people get a chance to talk to guys of that caliber and hear how human they are.
Right.
And just,
That's a very good point.
yeah, you know, like they're good people, man, and they appreciate. Like I appreciated the fact that they appreciate somebody like you. Like a lot,
because you think that someone that serves them or works for them doesn't necessarily matter as much, you would think?
Yeah, I think the general population looks at those type of people and
assumes,
automatically assumes that they can't associate, or they can't even just have a conversation with them. Like it's out of their
beneath
league.
them, right?
Yeah. But every single one of those folks talked about the importance of treating people, everybody. Chris made a great, I mean, it's not in the film, but we had a great in-depth conversation about how he treats the security guard, the doorman, the busboy, like whoever.
He does.
Like,
he does, by the way.
every single person that works for him, he makes sure he goes out of his way to talk to them. And he said he got better at that working with you. Like he said, you know, obviously he did that before, but
certainly.
But he would observe you, and he picked up on some things that made his process even better.
Yeah.
And you know, and everybody knows how successful he is and what he does, and Barry the same thing. You know, to hear Barry say, you know, I aspire, you know, to do something like Mark. You know, that's pretty impressive. Like, I mean,
I think. Yeah, I mean, I think he's doing me a solid, but
you could tell it's genuine, man.
Oh no, I mean,
he
is a very genuine. He's a very, very genuine.
And those guys are funny too, man. And Eddie, you know, just hearing Eddie joke around and, you know, talk about family. I don't know if I've posted it yet, but there is an extra bonus clip that'll go on the site where Eddie talks about family. It's very powerful.
Yeah, he's a huge family guy. Well, if you think about this, you know, I say it all the time, and some people close to me tell me, you know, you don't have to say those things, and you know, just express gratitude as much. But I realize that between Randy and his life experiences and the things like, look, I know he doesn't have to, like, you know, help me or, you know, spend time talking to me and explaining certain things to me, but he certainly does. And it's hard for me to express how much I appreciate that, you know, because these people start off as people and with business relationships, but they're more like friends. They really are. That's how I view them. I mean, I can't help myself. I do view them that way, but for him to go out of his way and teach and be patient and, you know, value the work that's being done, like, that means so much to me. And I have, you know, you have Randy, you have Chris, who's had so much life experience and done so many things with his life. And when Chris could tell a story that it had to be made up, but it's not made up. It's every bit of it's true. And that's the crazy part. And the names that he drops in the story, you're like, with who? And it's wild, but it's a combination of learning from Randy and Chris and listening to Barry, and, you know, there's certain things you pick up on. Like, who gets access to that? That's why I'm so grateful and so fortunate just to be able to talk to these people, and I can do something for them because they've done so much for me, you know. Just the two, you know, Randy and Chris, but, you know, the Eddie Owenses of the world, and just sharing their perspective on family and life, and it's a big deal, you know.
Yeah,
that's a blessing. It really is something special, and I can't help myself but express the gratitude that I have for all those people. And you know, when I say it's not, I don't want to let them down. It's not about not letting them down. It's just like, I want to do my very best because, you know, they took time and invested in me, whatever it may have been, you know, in regards to teaching, you know, certainly with the investments, but it's more like I want them to know that I'm going to do everything in my power to do the best I can and do good in this world, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And using the knowledge that they've shared with me, you know. So,
yeah, we'd be foolish not to.
Yeah. Well, what about was there an interview where you laughed more than anything?
Oh, David Giles.
David Giles.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, that was funny. Like, I think I've seen the David Giles, Coach Cullen story. David Giles, he introduces what a new or an incoming freshman experiences the first time, game day with Coach Joe Cullen. And he's very specific and very detailed. And I don't think I've ever heard a better told story than that one.
Right. Well, his version of the first warm-up, too, is...
Oh, it is.
Because a lot of... you know, we talked about this. Oh, big shout-out to Sam Kaufman. We talked about this Friday night.
Yeah.
Where
Sammy's a trip,
we try to tell people what we went through at University of Richmond, and I'm sure there's a lot of college football players, former and present, who are like, "Oh, we got it tough. We went through
it's
something similar."
Thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing here. And I feel like I can 99.9% guarantee you that a lot of the things that we experience, you have no idea. No idea.
You want to say, you know what, it's probably we're just biased and it's you're letting our emotions get in the way. But if you want to be honest, you just got to tell them probably not, because the things that they did, it's not like they were, well, I don't know if I should say that, but it's just...
It was a different time, too.
Yeah,
it was a different time. You could get away with a little bit more. And it wasn't like they did it out of... there
was no harm. They weren't trying to harm
right.
people. They were just trying to create this culture of, you know, strong accountability, zero excuses, and hold each other accountable, and let's make it happen, and here's how we do it. And if you don't make it happen, you're going to suffer the consequences.
Right.
And they expect the very best out of you. So it was like, get on board, and if you're not on board, it's going to get bad in here.
Right. And two things were a testament to that. We talked about specific stories. I'm going back to, you know, discussions with you know, former guys that went through that program. We've all talked about specific stories where players from other programs, like big time programs, came into University of Richmond as transfers and didn't last long at all. Didn't last.
Yeah, as quick as they got here, they got out.
Yeah,
and
some of them didn't even, like, they just came and visited, and didn't even stay. Like, they were like, you know what, I'm going to stick it out at the school that I wanted to leave. So, and then the other thing that if people really want to question us is take a look at the graduates from the Jim Reed era at University of Richmond. Just you could just make a list of maybe 20 people, but you could go like on a list of maybe 200. But if you just pick 20, Just pick 20 guys
Dude.
from that, I don't even know, almost 10-year period that he was there.
Just start off with Joe Douglas, general manager of the New York Jets. Todd McShay, the head of the NFL draft for ESPN. Andrew Bogle, head orthopedic surgeon. Sam Coffin's one of the most prominent lawyers in town. There's like lawyers, doctors, people who work for big time
Vermont Streeter,
Wall Street, like people who work for Pfizer, right? The head of Pfizer, like these
top guys. Yeah,
the list is crazy, and I think that he just breeds a push or an effort level or a sense of urgency or I feel like I can almost do anything mentality that is really special.
Exactly.
You know,
and every person that we've interviewed who played under Coach Reed said something along the lines of,
remember what Joe Douglas said.
Exactly. I made it through 4 years of Coach Reed. I can do anything in life.
And he said that to himself daily. And this is the general manager of the New York Jets. He goes, this is not hard, trust me. And he tells the players that.
Yeah.
He's like, you have no idea. Let me tell you a little story about Jim Reed. And he's right.
Yeah.
I remember when Coach Reed said, I don't know if it was the year after me, but like there was a string of maybe like 10 or 12 guys that got drafted, in some way, shape, or form. And the owner, George Young of the Giants, called him and said, what's going on down there? Like, what are you doing? Where are you getting these guys? And the truth was that the guys that he was bringing in, no one else wanted.
That's exactly true.
That's the irony of the story. And that tells you that even today where we have anatomy, there are situations that, and I know, look, times have certainly changed, but we'll have someone on the team and it's not looking good. It's like, there are certainly reasons to cut ties with an individual, but coaching is a big part of it. Like Jim Reed said, he believed that he was an extraordinary coach and he can make things happen with certain people based on the way he applied pressure, praised, brought people into the circle, embraced them, and held them accountable and held them to a higher standard. And he did every bit of that. And that's the way it is now. Like sometimes people want to just say, let's fire this person, let's cut ties with this person. You have you coached them up? And have you done a good job? And if you haven't, well, then that's why they're not up to speed. Or
Right.
did you make a poor choice bringing this person in, which is certainly possible.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is coaching. And coaching isn't always fun. It's not always fun. Like coaching is like, this is going to be miserable and you're going to suffer a little bit and you're going to have to sacrifice huge pieces of time and give lots of effort and energy. But there are certain people out there that want the coaching. It's just, are you going to coach them up?
Right.
Because coaching is a full-time job, 24/7, 365. You're always open, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and I mean that's one of the favorite sayings I like to use, and I think a lot of coaches use this. You have somebody under your realm that makes mistakes, keeps making mistakes, and guess what? You're either coaching it or you're allowing it to happen.
yeah.
It's not, you can't say I didn't coach that, but you let it happen.
Yeah.
You
Right.
kept letting it happen. So so that's a
good.
big point that that you bring up is just and that's you can apply that at any phase of life, right? Like you just said, like with your team at the gym, or if it's a team full of doctors that are under you, or a team full of lawyers, or you're an administrator at a school and your teachers aren't being coached up well enough, or anything like
Right.
it's such a great principle that you brought up there. And I know we could probably talk about this all day, right?
Right,
Like
right.
it's just so many things, and a lot of those things are things that we want to teach through the documentary.
Oh yeah.
So
And that's the reason for the documentary. So what's the plan going forward? Why don't you give everyone a timeline and tell them about the website, and then you can tell them about both Instagrams. What tell them?
Yeah. So right now, if you haven't checked it out, make sure you go visit justakidfromfallriver.com and make sure you subscribe to that website. We'll send you updates about. We've kind of cut it back to every other week now with new material that gets uploaded to the site. It's great. We thought that it would be great because it was so many interviews. We wanted the audience, to get a glimpse of who was involved and a little bit of, backdrop about about the people that were involved as well. So you can go to the site, you can see, you know, Mark's doing an amazing job of posting at least 2 or 3 times a week, 2 or 3 different people that were interviewed for the film or that were involved in the film, and we just tell you a little bit about them and why they were involved in the film, and then we've been posting also, or updating the site with extra content clips, which are, you know, clips that are just priceless, but we couldn't fit them into the film in a way that you know, helped deliver the message that we wanted to deliver. So you have to go to the site. Again, it's justakidfromfallriver.com. That's the name of the documentary, Just a Kid from Fall River. And right now we are, I would say, about 50% of the way done. Right now we're in a stage where we can move a lot faster. A lot of that 3.5 years was the production aspect of like gathering the content, you know, contacting the right people, you know, being able to schedule the interviews, get to the interviews. So that's what took a lot of time. And like we said, we didn't have a budget, so it wasn't like we could just take off 2 months and just knock out 50 interviews right away. It was like we had to wait until we had, you know, available time, free time ourselves. So, and now, like I said, we're in a phase where we're moving a lot faster, and we've been able to meet with some other folks outside of us who are super excited about getting involved in a project as well, which is going to help us take the film to another level. And we're just and we're pushing. So as far as the timeline, we're pushing to hopefully have a trailer, an official trailer out in the fall, which would, you know, hopefully we're hoping that it garners a lot more excitement. Which I mean, I believe, I know that there's a lot of excitement already, but we really want to reach a lot of people outside of our circle that this could be a positive impact for. And so we get that trailer out in the fall, and then from there it's just a matter of the right time to release it.
Mm-hmm.
So
and where?
Yeah, and where? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're narrowing that down right now, but it's getting close. So for those of you who are excited, and we keep getting messages of people like, when's it coming out? When's it coming out? And trust me, we're working extremely hard, and we've got some really big plans for it. We don't want to rush it because we don't want to screw it up. But at the same time, we are pushing as fast as we can because we want to get this out. And it's cliche, but you never know what tomorrow holds. So that's why we want to get it out as fast as possible. Mm-hmm. If this could change somebody's life, or just have even the least bit of positive effect on somebody, we want to get it out to them before anything could not have a positive impact on that person.
Right. Yeah. And the Instagram, did you do that?
Oh, no, Instagram. Yeah. So Instagram, you can follow Mark at Mark Megna. Yeah. And then
or the Just a Kid from Fall River.
Or at Just a Kid from Fall River, that handle for Instagram as well. And you can also you can find you can follow Mark's Facebook page, my Facebook, our Monarch Productions Facebook page as well. We just kind of pretty much we post the same things, on as many outlets as possible, just so we can reach a wider audience. So,
and if you need someone for video work who's incredible.
After we get the film out,
Monarch Productions, Randy West, does an amazing job, and I've seen him do amazing things for homes, for weddings, for everything. And this guy is like a gift, man. He's an incredible friend, and I don't know how you're doing all this. I ask him every day. I say, how do you do all this? I don't get it. I'm trying to figure it out now, but very exciting time. Thank you for tuning in, Randy. Thank you for being on, and thank you for committing a big piece of your life to do this, man. Oh, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. So thank you.
Yeah. And I just, before we leave, and say a lot of, I did do a lot of work, but fortunately, like Mark mentioned earlier, my wife is super understanding. Tasha, she's amazing. I couldn't have asked for a better wife. My 2 kids, Isabel and RJ. My family has been so supportive. Like Mark said, like a lot of times I'll have to leave the family for days, maybe a week, to get somewhere and get an interview and get back. And And like we said, I'm not getting paid for this. This is a passion
Yeah.
project. So, my family is just so understanding. I want to make sure that I said thank you to them and let everybody know how amazingly supportive that is. And that's a huge part. Like people, I just want to make sure they understand that. Like, if I didn't have an understanding and supportive wife,
No, you can't.
this wouldn't have happened.
No,
I
you're
mean,
right. You're right.
so
So Melanie, shout out to you for putting up with all this and letting Randy
Yes.
stay at the house and
Yes.
have video equipment all over the house,
all
and,
over the place.
and doing the interview and
At the house,
supporting us
yeah.
and being patient and understanding. Because, you know, I don't want to get into it now, but being the wife of Mark, Megna is not the easiest thing in the world.
She's a saint.
She is a saint, and thank God for her. She's amazing, but I'm very lucky to have her. So, all right, man. So when is this one going to come out? This week? Next week?
Yeah, give it about a week or so.
Yeah,
So
so-
it'll be out there.
All right, we'll cut that part out. But all right, thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah. Go see the film.
Go see the film.